Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine podcast. Today is Friday, February the 2nd, and we are now officially in the last month without real baseball until December of 2024.
Yeah, free agency, Jesus. Spring training
Good start.
is
Good
yeah,
start
great
there.
start. Spring training starts in 9 days. That would put 10 days. That's when pitchers and catchers report on Valentine's Day. So wait, that doesn't make any sense. Valentine's Day is the 14th, so 12 days.
12 days. There you go.
Man, this is a great start. We're off to a hot start. It's
Day
too
after
early
Mardi
for
Gras.
this.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in the middle of Mardi Gras season right now. So if there are any faux pas this time, last time we're blaming the meds. By the way, speaking of meds, tooth way better. They gave me a rinse. I don't know what's in the rinse, but it cleaned out, I think, everything in my mouth, and my mouth has never felt better.
That's great. That's great. And we're off to such a hot start. We just lost 25% of our
No, we didn't.
viewers in 10 seconds.
I think we gained more. Anyway, Cardinals have a new reliever where we are 65 days from um opening day. We're in it. We're in it now.
Yeah. Cardinals made a signing yesterday, and that was by far the second most important thing to happen to the Cardinals' odds of winning the NL Central yesterday. Before we get into reliever, who I really like and we'll talk about in a little bit, Corbin Burnes is a Baltimore Oriole.
Uh,
Um, what's crazy week for the Orioles? The second most important news for the Orioles this week, which is obviously they're selling the team, and John Angelos is getting his dumbass out of baseball. Thank God for that. So Corbin Burnes isn't in our division anymore. Add 3 wins to our expected total, because he won't be pitching against us 4 times. That's great news for the Orioles. One, amazing for the Orioles. I'm happy that they finally did something without trading really any of their top prospects, and they get a top 5 pitcher in Major League Baseball.
yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy for one Orioles fans. You got Cal Ripken as part of the new ownership group. Now, people can say just because it's a Hall of Famer, it's part of it, doesn't always work. See Charlotte Hornets, see Miami Marlins. Now the Jeter stuff, whole different situation than probably what's going to happen in Baltimore. That necessarily was not all of Derek Jeter's issue out there
He
down
Jeter
there.
tried.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm not going to blame Derek at all. I'm just saying it doesn't always work out. However, getting Cal back in Baltimore as part of the Orioles, and the first thing they do in the first week is essentially do this to John Angelos as they go get Corbin Burnes. I'm pumped that. And if you look at that team last year, I mean, they were close anyway for a team that's really honestly been 1 year ahead of schedule for the last couple of years. And now you add in an actual bona fide ace. That tells me not only are they going to do that, but come the trade deadline, you can see them be even more active than they were last year when they had guys like Flaherty and a couple other arms in there.
Yeah, and John Angelos is technically
Excuse me.
still the owner of
Right.
the Orioles. Um, that hasn't he has his dad has to die for the other team, the other
Yeah,
owners to
Peter.
officially take over. Which, by
Yeah,
the way, weird clause. Just sell the team. Why are we waiting for his dad to die? That just seems strange to me.
just sitting around
But
here
I
for
do.
pops.
But I don't think it's a coincidence that after they are now financially involved in this, and it will, implications moving forward will go to the new ownership group. That what 24, 48 hours afterwards, they make the biggest move they've ever made in my lifetime. So
Yep.
I don't think it's a coincidence. Great for them. Great for the Cardinals. The Brewers win total probably just went down about 5 wins
Oh, at least
easily.
probably.
And I don't know how good the return is. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I felt it was light, but that's because I thought like Kerstad or someone would be involved in that deal. But the Brewers went out, got Reese Hoskins. We thought, okay, they're maybe in going one last run at it. They're not. They did the whole we're trading our star again. They did with Josh Hader. Didn't work last time. So let's start the campaign to get Devin Williams the hell out of Milwaukee.
And to St. Louis back home.
That's not, we'll have to wait till free agency for that,
Correct. It will not
but
happen during the
he will not
trade
be
deadline.
traded to us.
Let's get him. Hey, let's get him to Baltimore. There
Right. Yeah.
we go.
There was a funny tweet I shared with you yesterday, and it was this video of someone trying to like jump on a plane wing before it took off, and it said Freddie Peralta trying to join Corbin Burnes on his way to Baltimore, and I thought that was
It's
funny.
yeah. Hey, we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of if
I
or
didn't think
when.
it was though.
I didn't think it was going to come this early. I knew that eventually Corbin Burnes was going to be out of there.
Oh
So
yeah.
I didn't know when. And I mean, With the
Can I ask you a
return,
question?
hold on, with the return, we
Okay.
have no clue. That's the only thing we can say.
Mhm.
Like
Two
those
good
two prospects
prospects,
could
but
end up being stars. That's the thing with prospects. They could also be guys that you never ever hear from again. So who knows?
the thing I like for the Orioles is it's guys like Joey Ortiz might be a really good shortstop. He might be an everyday major league shortstop for the Brewers, but he's not Jackson Holiday. DL Hall's a really talented starting pitcher. Potentially might just be a reliever. He's not Grayson Rodriguez. He's not Kyle Bradish, and he's not Corbin Burnes.
Right.
So if you're the Orioles, I like that they took this leap. But this starts an interesting question I've had for a long time. If you're a team in contention, which the Brewers were in contention, they were going to be in the mix, and they might still be, you look to trade for 1 year rentals to help you for that 1 year, right? Like we look to do that. So why is it that when that guy is on your team, it's now we have to get value out of him any way we can. But if he's on another team, let's go trade for him, help for a year. I don't
Well,
understand that philosophy at all. I really
I
don't.
don't think that that the Corbin Burnes type pitcher is a 1 year rental very often. Do you know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
know, but I feel like it's always like, oh, we're afraid this guy's gonna leave in free agency, so we're gonna get value out of him before he
Yeah.
leaves us for nothing. But then also like, okay, you're signing Reese Hoskins to a 1 year, a 2 year deal with an option. If he's good for you, he's probably gonna be gone after a year. Why'd you sign him then?
Right. I understand what you're
I
saying.
think the philosophy is just backwards when people do that. Like it'd be like the Cardinals last year going into the season trading Montgomery because they had to get value out of him. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I get it. I'm intrigued to see if there's an extension from Baltimore for Corbin
He's
Burnes
a
to be
Boris
there.
client.
Yeah, so probably not. Speaking of
Yeah.
Boris Knight, before we get to the Cardinals acquisition, um, are you still shocked that Jordan Montgomery is? I mean, it is February 2nd, like you just laid out earlier, even though your math was not even close to being correct. 12 days till pitchers and catchers. Where is Jordan Montgomery reporting in 12 days? Now we know also, you and I know he's working out, he's throwing, he's ready for wherever it is he's going to go. So whenever it's signed,
Yeah, he'll
but
be
are you
fine.
still surprised that we're 12 days away and Jordan Montgomery, among others, is still sitting out there?
Surprised. I would be surprised you would have told me this in October. That would have surprised me. But the way this offseason's gone, I'm not surprised. Like it's not just Montgomery, it's Snell, it's Chapman, it's Bellinger, all four Boris clients, right? Josh Hader just signed about a week ago to the Astros, so it's been a slow burn this offseason. I was looking around, and I think the whole thing around the beginning of this offseason, and I think it's why the Cardinals really jumped on Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson when they did, was the supply and demand. Like there's not much supply and there's a shit ton of demand for pitching this offseason. There's not. They
No.
miscalculated that. I think Scott Boris miscalculated it, like really miscalculated it. Because I'm looking around, there's not many teams that are still in the market to spend money like that or to make a trade for Dylan Cease. There's not much out there. It's like very few teams that I think are still looking to make a big addition. Like the Yankees, Dodgers, teams like that, you can't ever really count out from doing something like that. But they're kind of stocked up, and the other teams like aren't spending money because of RSN deals. And it's really like the Angels might get one of them just because they need somebody to sell to their fan base. But other than that, like them and the Giants, no one's really looking for pitching anymore. And those guys are out there looking for ungodly contracts that nobody wants to give them.
Yeah, it makes you well, you already addressed one of those. I was going to ask if you thought it probably had something to do with the RSN contract. It has to, right? Where teams are
Yeah.
financially not aware of what they're going to have in their pot to spend. But it does start to beg the question. We haven't heard it. I haven't heard it yet. But the collusion talks will start eventually. The teams
Mhm.
are just going to get band together and say, we're not spending that kind of money
It
unless you're the
happened with
Dodgers.
Machado and Harper.
Correct. Like I'm surprised that we haven't heard it yet because Snell's still on the market as well.
All the biggest
Snell,
Boris's four biggest clients are still
who are
out
the
there.
Snell, Montgomery, Bellinger? Who's the fourth one?
Matt Chapman.
Okay, Matt Chapman. I couldn't remember who it was. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's. I mean, those are four big names. Then now, do you buy into the fact that I saw a report the other day that Bellinger's had no like substantial, not substantial, but like official offers? Do you think that's real, or do you think that's coming from like here? I love this contract talk because you never know what's real or what's coming from the Boris camp. You know what I'm like? You
It's all
never
coming from
know.
the Boris camp.
Yeah, that's the way it usually works.
All of it is like
So
so
are you
because
buying
like
in?
other teams wouldn't know.
Are you buying into the fact that Bellinger has had zero? Because if your Boris coming out saying that, I don't think that's helping your client.
Right. Yeah, I don't
To me,
know.
that lowers the value of Cody Bellinger. Now, if Boris comes out and says we have 8 official offers, that
Right.
to me would drive up the
It could drive
contract.
up the interest maybe because teams like, oh, maybe we can go get him. Like we'll see what happens. But I maybe he hasn't had an official offer because the way MLB works is weird. You would think it'd be
Yes.
like, hey, Bellinger, we know where you're going to be. We want you for 6 years, 180. And then they just go from there. But that's not really how it works. It's kind of like they talk for a long time and then an offer is like officially made. So it's possible. I think he's a Cub. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think anyone else
I
makes
mean,
sense. Like maybe the Blue Jays, but even them, they just got Kevin Kiermaier and they have Varsho and Springer in the outfield. So it doesn't make a ton of sense. So I kind of think he's a Cub until someone surprises me and goes and gets
can
him.
can can you explain to me with them not signing them the love for the Cubs all of a sudden? Like I've seen a lot of these prognostications or prognosticators, which by the way, take all of them with a grain of salt. I'm not buying into it, but a lot of like reputable names out there picking the Cubs to win the Central. Is that just a sexy? Are they the sexy pick this year? I mean, I know the Reds are a sexy pick. I know the
I think the
Cardinals
Reds
are.
are the sexy one.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of people picking the Cubs, and that I just don't. That offense, I don't get it. They've got a couple of
Oh,
good arms. I understand that.
mhm. A lot of it could be predicting, they're going to make another big move or two. Like, so you just build that into what you're predicting. But I don't know. I mean, they're fine. If you really, I like Seiya Suzuki a lot. Maybe he has a big year this year. He's kind of trending upwards like a lot of the Japanese players tend to do before they officially break out. And then, they're starting pitching like Justin Steele's good. We don't know about Imanaga. Their lineups, like James Swanson's a really, really good baseball player. He's not a really, really good hitter by any means. And he's like their second best hitter in that lineup. So they
Yeah.
don't scare me. I don't know why they didn't
Well,
sign Reese Hoskins. They should
you
have.
can chalk 6 home runs away from Ian Happ because Wayno is no longer pitching for the Cardinals.
He killed Wayno like any player I've ever seen kill a pitcher.
I don't think I've seen anything like that in a
It was
long,
like
long time.
the only other player I can remember, and this might be a deep cut, and I might even be misremembering,
Let's
but
be
every time I
fortunate.
went to a Kyle Loesch start when I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, Aramis Ramirez hit 2 or 3 home runs off
Yeah.
him.
Well, he did
It
that
was
to a
like
lot
every
of
time.
Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah, I might be misremembering, and someone's gonna look it up, and he's gonna have a 118 career batting average versus Loesch. But I know I went to a Cubs Cardinals game, and Aramis Ramirez hit 3 homers off him. I know that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm really like I said, we talked about this last time. Like I'm still stuck in the I have no idea. Like so right now I'm remaining cautiously optimistic, but I want to be totally pumped up for the season because it's 70 degrees down here and I am like really ready for baseball. Like I mean, I'm fully in the NBA, fully into the NHL. It's almost a Super Bowl. So let's get baseball going. College baseball tickets are for sale. We tried to get Savannah Banana tickets and couldn't. How do 4 people in one household sign up for a lottery and not one of us get a ticket? Not even an
I don't
option.
know.
We didn't even get a like not a peek, just a little peek to quote Chris Rock.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to hear about your 70 degrees though. It's 40 degrees here, and I get to go shoot men's tennis versus Duke today outside. Is
Yes,
what I get to go
is
do today.
yes. Hey,
And
can you let them? Can you go ahead and put some bad juju on Duke since their basketball team plays Carolina this weekend?
I'll try. I don't know. I'm
Okay, I
not really
appreciate
allowed
that.
to. I think I kind of have to be a third party observer there.
That's
I
probably a
can't really
smart
get
move
into
for your
it.
career.
I'll
Probably
also
a
be
smart
at
move.
the basketball game this Sunday, which is fun. I get to
Who
record
do
that for the
who
first
who
time.
do the line I have?
I don't know, and I need to look that up before I go. Probably should look it up.
This is the future of journalism, folks, right there across the screen from me.
Mhm.
Okay, let's get into it as we spend a lot of time on some of the other stuff. Um, Kenyan Middleton, you texted me last night. I was at the bar because, like I said, we're in the middle of Mardi Gras season. I just did some research this morning. Obviously, the contract, the everything is not out, but that's another solid piece added to the stable that is the Cardinals bullpen for 2024, as far as I'm concerned.
And if he's healthy, he's more than solid. So as with every reliever, there's downside, right? Every reliever, other than no, every reliever, there's downside.
Yes.
His two things are one, he walks a lot of people. I think he walked 10%, 11% of batters last year. That's not good. You'd like that ideally to come down to at the highest 9 to 8%. But some guys just have to deal with that. We saw with Jordan Hicks forever. That just happens with relievers. And also a pretty lengthy injury history. Which relievers you're gonna see that a lot because a lot of them are starters that had injury problems that became relievers. So he has a couple downsides. So it's not trying to rainbows, but the things that he does well, I really like. So last year he broke out. Had his best year of his career, 3.38 ERA with the Yankees and the White Sox. And the thing that I wanted to highlight here is I think when you see a guy break out, you want to see something substantial and like tangible that they did that points to why they were better than they were, other than just luck. And there is something. His usage on his changeup went up from 20% from sorry, 42% to 55%. last season. Well, that's just against lefties. I'm wrong. From 22% to 44%. So it was his highest used pitch last year. And he got great stats out of it. He had like his exit velocity, his whiff percentage was 38% off of it, and it led to a 30% strikeout rate in general overall, which is great. And the big thing it did for him is he just like torched lefties with it. Lefties couldn't touch his changeup, and it made him one of those Andre Palante types, what he had never been before, where he gets lefties out at a higher rate than he gets righties out. And he's kind of that weird guy that has reverse splits where lefties don't see him, and that's because his changeup is so effective to left-handed batters. So he had a tangible change in his arsenal and in his effectiveness that allowed him to become the reliever he was last year. And that to me, those are the guys you go after because that points towards a little bit of sustainability in what they were doing. So I like it. Cardinals making a move that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of us, like me and you, were guilty of this. We're like, they're getting a reliever. So who's at the top of the market? Let's look at Jordan Hicks, Phil Maton, Josh Hader, even.
Josh Hader, right?
And the Cardinals did probably the smart thing and said, let's go get guys that have underlying stuff we like a lot that aren't going to cost us a lot. And let's get like 5 or 6 of them instead of throwing, $12 million at one Jordan Hicks. So I really like the deal.
Had his highest, I believe, if I looked at this, if I read this right, because again, not always reading things correctly early in the morning, but it does look like this outside of the first couple years where he was only in 15 games, 10 games, 133 FIP, highest of his career. I don't really just include those first. When he went to New York, it looked like he really found something. I mean, 1 point something ERA.
That was
And
probably just his FIP with the Yankees.
no, it was for the entire season. 2023, his entire FIP was 133. It was
Really?
235 with, yeah. I apologize.
His
That's
expected
ERA.
ERA.
ERA plus. I said FIP. I meant ERA plus. My
Yeah,
apologies.
let's say his expected
Yeah,
ERA
no,
was
no. Yeah,
3.7.
no,
So
no,
that'd be
no,
a
no.
crazy
ERA
FIP for that.
plus is what I meant. I apologize. So for those who don't know, ERA plus, kind of like what's the hitting one? Why am I losing drawing a blank there?
What are
OPS
you
plus,
asking?
where we were
OPS
looking
plus,
above
yeah.
league average, 100's league average. So 133, 33%. Look, again, it's just another arm that you can trust, another righty, another guy who's going to get strikeouts, who has swing and miss stuff with the changeup. Like that's
Mhm.
that's what you want coming out of the thing. Does this tell you that they are a little bit nervous, like you and I talked about Gio? Because you and I've said this, like I told you, that's the one guy that scares me. I love him, by the way. I have loved everything he's done since we got him when we traded old muscle man Luke Voigt to the Yankees. Like I've loved everything he has done, and he has always seemed to be the lightning rod here in St. Louis for because of at times when he gives it up. I mean, he gives it up, but that's what all
Mhm.
relievers do. But does that tell you that maybe there is a little concern about the usage of him over the last couple of years wearing on him?
I think the usage is, I don't think it's a sign of concern of him specifically as like performance wise, but I do think it is an attempt to not burn him out.
That's
You know,
that's what I
so
that's where I
you
was going. Yeah,
so you look at what they have now in the back end of the bullpen. And I would consider Kenyan Middleton a high leverage reliever. That's how they'll use him to start the year. But they went in last year. Their 3 high leverage guys at the beginning of the year were Hicks, Helsley, and Gallegos. Those were the 3. And Hicks was so bad at the beginning of the year. He wasn't really high leverage again until like June. But now they have Kittredge, they have Helsley, they have Middleton, they have Gallegos, and they have Jojo Romero. That's 5 high leverage guys. They've never had gone in the season with that. Now, I surely one of them will be bad, one of them will be hurt, one something will happen to where that's
right.
not how it works out. But still, like that's the way you build a bullpen is you get as many guys that can step up and get in that role as possible. So when Gallegos is bad for a month, which he will be at some point, you have 3 other options to turn to, and you can kind of let him come in the 5th, 6th inning when he needs to and get right. You don't have to keep throwing him out there in the 8th and 9th inning and losing games because of it. Hicks and Gallegos were awful for a long stretch last year, and they had no other options. They had to keep throwing them out and hope they figured it out, and they lost a lot of games because of it. So I like what they're doing. I like that Ryan Helsley is going to be able to get a little bit of a breather. You've got a bunch of guys now that can get saves for you if he isn't ready to go. So I'm a fan. And 2 things that really pop out when you look at Middleton's Savant page. Um, his hard hit percentage was 97th percentile. So people weren't barreling him up, and he was striking out a lot of people. I mean, those are the 2 things you need to look at for relievers are guys that don't give up hard contact because that allows you for sustainability, and guys that strike people out because that's what you need to get out of bad, sticky situations. So at the end of the day, his injury history is bad. We don't know if this is a 1 or 2 year deal or maybe 3. I doubt it's 3. And we don't know how expensive it is. I would guess around the $4 to $5 million range. But no matter what the money is, because I'm not paying it, I like it.
Yeah. The other thing that I love, and I don't think people talk about enough, is the competition now for those other three spots. Let's, knock on wood, all five of those guys stay healthy through spring training. But the competition now, the pool of young pitchers, they're going to be competing for those last three bullpen spots we're now not talking about, no offense to these guys. They were big leaguers. They did things that I could never do on a baseball field. But we're now not talking about the Jake Woodfords, the Dakota Hudsons, the guys like Chris Stratton. No offense, he was good here. I understand
I
it.
actually wish we had him back,
But
yeah.
the TJ McFarlands. We're not talking about those guys competing for spots. We're talking about guys who were throwing in the mid 90s and guys who were fighting for a big league spot versus being in Memphis or being DFA'd. I mean, you got
Mhm.
Fernandez, isn't he the Rule 5 guy?
Yeah, so he's guaranteed to
Then
be on the roster if they like him at
if they
all.
keep him, correct. But then you've got what? You've got obviously Zach Tom. You've got the lefties because JoJo's a lefty, correct?
Yeah, he's guaranteed to
Yeah,
be in though.
right.
So the
So
lefties I would throw in would be Thompson,
or Libertor,
Libertor, and John King, who was really good last year for the
right?
Cardinals.
And so you
Um,
got those three fighting for one spot. Love that, by the
mhm.
way. Then you've got Fernandez. Who am I missing here? Not it won't be
Oh, Riley
Roby.
O'Brien, the guy they got
O'Brien. That
from the
was it.
Mariners,
Yep.
and
That
Wilkin
was the guy I
Rodriguez
think.
is back as well, so
Yep.
he's going to be competing. Guillermo Zuniga, the guy that threw 103 in the WBC last year, he'll be competing. And then I'm blanking on Nick Robertson, who a lot of
Thank you.
people tend to really like. They got from the O'Neill trade. Like he's one of the guys that might even. It's what's interesting to me is Ryan Fernandez is like guaranteed to be on the roster opening day unless, knock on wood, he has an injury or anything that sets him back. Because I think they're going to want to keep as many of those guys as possible in the organization, and letting Ryan Fernandez go back to the Red Sox makes no sense
Makes
to
no
me.
sense. I agree.
So if even if maybe like Robertson a little bit more, you can put him in AAA and be fine. What I like about this and the options is you're going to have a pretty decent amount of relievers at AAA. They can come up and down as needed. You use a guy a lot like for a couple weeks, and it might suck for him with his pay. And I don't like this structure, but you send him down for a little bit because he's not going to be pitching for you for 3 days, and you call somebody back up, and they can get those innings you need. And there's some guys inside the organization that are really interesting, like Gordon Graceffo. Do they view him as a starter this year or as a reliever? We'll see. Like I think
I
spring training will be telling for that.
take
Um,
take that old
Go
midnight
ahead.
train to Memphis, and I love it. And I said that I think we talked about it I think I said it on here earlier. That Memphis team, for those of you who like to take that trip down there, which by the way, it's up there for us down here, but I love it. I love Memphis. I don't necessarily love Beale Street anymore, but I do love that mid city area and I love the ballpark area. But that's going to be a fun team to watch. That's going to be a nice weekend trip for a lot of people because you're going to have the Victor Scotts, the Thomas Sajacies. You're going to
DK
have
Roby.
TK Roby. I mean, you're going to have a group down, and
They're
that
they had like 7 starters. Have you noticed
Luke,
that?
you're going to have Luke and Baker hitting bombs again down there
Maybe.
and
I don't
over
know. I kind of
over the
hope they trade
warehouse.
him, and it's not anything
Yeah,
to do with
I
him, but
agree.
I want him to get a spot to
Hey,
play somewhere.
who's going to be their catcher? Is it going to be Jimmy Crooks? Is he going to be up at
Pedro
AAA?
Baez.
Oh, that's right. But will they have a
And
second
they
one?
they got another guy. They just picked one up that's going to
Okay.
probably be down
So
there.
you
And
think
also there's
Crooks?
another one that I'm missing that's
Well,
down
your
there.
guy, your boy Berdal, or yeah, isn't that your guy?
He's not, he'll be in Double A at the highest next year.
Yeah. What will it be? Well, he and Crooks might be the Double A catchers at Springfield.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they keep Bernal at high A again, just
Yeah.
because you want to get those guys as close to everyday reps as you can.
What is he? 20 now? 19, 20?
20.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
might be 19 still. He's
Yeah,
really
he's
young.
young. So that's a spot. The one thing I would love to see the Cardinals draft this year. Last year, they made a concerted effort last year, and now we're moving on to where we don't. I'm not necessarily to, but it's where my mind went to draft hitting outfielders like they did. There was a concerted effort there last year, which love that.
College level
They
hitting outfielders.
yes, love all of that. Our guy Braden Jobert from right down the street from my house, like love that he's still in the
That's not
Cardinals.
exactly the highlight of the group, but
I'm getting a
yes.
jersey. I'm getting a jersey.
I hope he makes it up to the big leagues. That'd be
Me
great.
too. Me too. Anyway, um, now I'd like to see them make a concerted effort to go out and draft college level middle infielders. Like I think that would be something, or even high school. High school might even be the better route to go because you've got a young Mason Wynn. But it just seems like we are
They need some
void
depth.
outside of the JC. We're pretty void in the middle infield spots up and down. From what I've read, not an
It's
expert,
true.
but I like to read the people: Kyle Reese, Kareem, Blake Newberry, like those guys. I like to. By the way, I would suggest following all of those guys. Those are the guys I like to read that I learn
Mhm.
about, and I trust their knowledge. So it just
Yeah.
seems like we're pretty void in that area down there.
They have some exciting guys, like you said, it's the JC.
Yeah,
Prieto's not too exciting to me, but he's a guy that's going to be able to hit in the big leagues to some level. And then obviously Francisco Mejia is a really young, exciting prospect down there, but he's really young and raw, and we have no idea what he'll do. But other than that, yeah, they're really lacking on depth, and that's something like if they didn't have JC, oh boy, like it would be
Right.
like they
Correct.
like I don't know
There's
what they
nothing.
didn't. They got Prieto and JC last year.
That'll
Before the
be
deadline, they had nobody.
that'll be the middle infield at Memphis, correct? Like that's going to be your middle infield. Yeah.
I hope
Yep.
so. They need to put JC at shortstop, in my
Well,
opinion,
that's
and
what they've said
just
they're going to do, so they need to.
yeah, that's what they did with Paulie Young, and it worked out better than any of us could have imagined at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he's going to become the shortstop. He probably won't. Mason Wins that has that locked down, but just to give him that flexibility and see if he can do it. So now, because they don't have a backup shortstop, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit before we get into that, bullpen need another arm or no?
No, I don't think so. And here's why. You've got, I mean, look, yeah, you can never have too many arms. Please understand
How
that.
about
But I
another
love the
major league
competition.
arm locked into the roster? So
If
like a
you
guy
can get
that's on a guaranteed contract.
if you can get one, then yes, I'm in. I'm in because, and again, you can never have too many. And if you need to let those young guys develop one more year in Memphis and have them ready to come up, I'm okay with that because that's fine. But I don't know that they're going to do. What are you looking at? A Maton? You looking at somebody like that?
I don't think they need one. Now, I think so. For me,
Okay,
if they get one, great. Spend
right.
money on
I
relievers. I don't
agree.
care. But my question, I guess, I didn't ask. Right? I don't think I do. They need one. My answer would be no. I think what they've done is good
Yes.
enough. It's a revamped bullpen, which they needed to do. And I just like what they've done overall this offseason. I think it's fair to say the starting pitching leaves a lot to be desired, and we'll see how that goes. But as a whole, just restructuring this pitching staff, they've been pretty aggressive, and I like what they've done. So I don't think they need one. I think if they got one, great. I'll be excited. But they don't need one, in my opinion. What was I going to say before I got into
Were
that?
you going to talk about the MLB shredder list that the Cardinals had 6 guys on it?
No,
Is
but
that
that's
what you're going to
great.
talk about?
It's good
They were
news.
fifth, tied for third, I think, of
Lars
most on
Nootbaar
the.
was
Don't
top
know.
10 in
Didn't
left
see.
field. He
Didn't
was
see who it
7 or
was.
8. He should have been higher,
Yeah.
in my opinion, but whatever. There, Ian Happ wasn't even on the list somehow. I don't know what goes on over there. He's a two-time Gold Glove winner that bats third for a pretty decent team, and he's not on the
Yeah.
list. What was I getting into? What were we talking about before that just happened?
It's the JC at short.
Yeah, gosh, no idea, no
Yeah, you
idea.
lost. That was your fault.
I did that.
You
Yeah,
asked
I
me a
literally
bad
did that.
question, and
I
then
did that to myself. It was a good
yeah,
question. It was,
yeah, but it was phrased
um,
badly. Come on, you're a
oh,
journalist.
okay. I do have a different question. This wasn't what I was going to get into. Maybe that'll come back to me. I don't know. Um, do you think the Cardinals have a chance to be opportunistic with one of these starters that's still available? Dylan
Brandon
Cease,
Woodruff.
Jordan Montgomery. Okay, one that's going to actually help them in the first 8 months of the season. Yes, but Brandon Woodruff, great, but they're not going to do that. That's a Texas Rangers move if I've ever seen one. Jordan Montgomery, Dylan Cease.
Added to the list for the Rangers
Yeah,
of guys who
exactly.
aren't going to
Dylan
pitch in
Cease
the first half.
and Blake Snell. So those
Um,
three guys are out there. And here's the thing. I want to set this up for a second. The Cardinals always do this, and I kind of think it's bullshit just to not piss fans off. But I do think there's a little bit of truth to it, where they always say we're not ever going to shut the door on things. We'll see what happens, and how the market develops, all that. If there's ever an opportunity for one, they need another guy at the top of their rotation. Two, the demand's obviously not as high as these people thought, both agents and Chris Getz of the White Sox, because they have not been moved, and we're about to get to spring training here in a few days. Um, and obviously, I think the ideal situation would be having your team in place before you get to spring training. And I don't see a ton of suitors out there. There's a few out there. There might be some surprise ones, but I do think this is an opportunity for the Cardinals to at least get involved to some extent with Dylan Cease talks and see where that goes. Because guess what? The biggest bidder for Dylan Cease is gone. The Orioles just got their guy. I don't think they're trading more prospects. The Dodgers have like 7 starters now. They're not trading prospects for him. The Braves don't have prospects. They're all in the
no.
major leagues with 8-year contract extensions. So I think this is an opportunity for them. I don't think they're gonna do it, but I would imagine they have to be at least intrigued to see what these guys are asking for right now, right?
Yeah, I almost think like they'd be more inclined, even though I don't believe they're going to do any of it. I think they'd be more inclined to have a reunion with Monty than any of those above. I mean, because here's the thing, I'll go back to you. You've got such a good young offensive core. We just talked about their lack of depth in the middle infield. So dealing this to JC, like which is you're going to have to do if you're getting Dylan Cease, I
I would
believe.
do it, but yeah.
I'm not saying don't do it. Please, I don't want anybody to mix those words up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm coming at this from the Cardinals' perspective and point of view. That potentially doing that really, I mean, that now you're one injury away from Tommy Edman being your everyday shortstop. Dylan Carlson, your everyday center fielder. I'm not saying that's a bad move.
Victor Scott.
I'm I don't know. Everybody's saying that. Let's let the guy. Let's see how he does at AAA for the
Oh, I
first
get
half
it,
of
but
the
he just
year.
has such a he just has such a good floor
Agreed.
of being a good defensive
Agreed.
player
I
for you.
agree. So I don't see them making that move. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I would.
Mhm.
I wouldn't. I'm saying I don't see them doing that. I think the Montgomery thing. I don't think it's
It
going to
makes sense,
happen,
doesn't it?
but it makes sense. Yes.
It does. The only thing that doesn't make sense is, and I don't want to put stuff out there that wasn't confirmed because I think that's not what I should be doing, obviously. But there was something to him and Wilson Contreras not really get on the same page at all. He Wilson Contreras didn't catch him like the final 2 months of him being a Cardinal. After Michael Kay came out and said a Cardinal player told
Yeah.
me that Wilson was calling the wrong pitches. What Cardinal player did Michael Kay probably know? The guy that came from the Yankees, I would
Yep.
guess. So I do think that's part of it to where if anything were to happen, I think they would have to get on the same page and say, hey, Wilson Contreras, you're gonna have to throw to him. Sorry. Like, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with that. But also, he's going to still get, I would imagine, 20 plus a year for 5, 6 years. Like that's out there somewhere for him. For some reason, the Red Sox don't want to sign him when he's like in their town saying, hey, please sign me. And they're just like, I don't want to spend money. I'm the Red Sox. Like, why are the Red Sox not spending money? It's weird. But I think they should at least kick the tires on all three of these guys and see what's up. Like, see,
Did
what if Blake Snell is going to sign a 3-year deal for $100 million? Why would you not be in on that? Like, it's a lot of money, but you're not locking yourself into a long term with him. Because I would imagine the Blake Snell problem is people don't want to give him 5, 6 years. So they
right.
should at least be looking at what this could be. And if it's a salary issue, do what you did with Sonny Gray and front backload the contract a bit, but also then you have options to trade some guys to get some salary off the books. So I think they should at least be looking into it.
What do you buy of the reports that the Mariners are interested in Dylan Cease? Was that not a wild report?
Yeah, it's one, if the Mariners do that, that's dumb. I like Dylan Cease a
Uh,
lot, but it just makes no
Agreed.
sense. But also, I think they traded Gonzalez for Jacob Gonzalez, who was one of their best hitting prospects, maybe their best hitting prospect, for Jorge Polanco. So I don't think they're in on that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so. That one just
Which was a good
kind of
move
came
for
out
them,
of
by
no.
the way.
That's Jerry DePoto though, bro. Like he wants a stable
Wheels and
at all
deals.
time. At all time, he is man. He
He
is the
has
guy to
to.
do
His
it.
ownership doesn't want to spend, so he has to
I
get
know,
creative.
which is wild.
He's done
You're
a
living
good
in that
job with that.
market. You're living in that
Yeah.
market, and they're not spending anything.
It's
I
a
don't
pretty small
understand it.
market, though.
Yeah, but it's just like it's. I mean, at that time of year, there's nothing going on. It's like
It's
St.
RSN
Louis.
stuff.
Like I know, I know, I know.
There.
Well, what
I
do you
I
think?
know what
We
I
don't have
wanted
to
to
get into
ask.
this deep because I still don't really
Go ahead.
truly understand it, and I'm not going to act like I do. What do you think ends up? Do you think that baseball? Let me reroute the question. Do you think that baseball is going to piss off a lot of people? Which, by the way, I'm all about, and go to like an Amazon. I know that people are getting pissed about the NFL having the game on Peacock, the playoff game, whatever. That's the future of sports because regional cables is dying for the most part. Like the subscriptions,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Do you think that baseball ends up going to like an Amazon platform or an Apple TV? They're already on there Friday
Some of them
nights.
are already going to Prime, right? Some
I think
teams.
so. I
Cardinals
think so.
aren't.
Like,
They're not because they have their own streaming rights. But I don't know if that'll piss people off because imagine how many older people that don't have some other apps or don't and just pay their cable bill every month. They're paying 100, 200, maybe more dollars a month for it because cable is ridiculously expensive.
yes,
And some of them can't even get the Cardinals, so they can't even watch them. But the ones that can, now you say, hey, you already have Amazon Prime because they all do. Everyone has
yep.
Amazon Prime. So just go watch it on there and you can cut your cable bill. Like you're not paying $200 a month anymore. So I think some people would get upset about it probably, but most people have Amazon Prime. So I think that'd make a lot of
Hold on.
sense.
I thought that too until I read the numbers about the NFL. And like every week there's a game on NFL on Prime, the subscriptions like skyrocket
Yeah. Is
because there
it?
are that many people who don't have Amazon Prime, which
Yeah.
I just thought that
Wild.
was like if you wanted to live in the world, you had to have an Amazon
Well,
Prime
I wonder
subscription.
if that's more of like we're saying that because, we have the money to spend on streaming services, willy nilly. And some
Yeah,
people
but
don't. Some people don't want to
agreed.
pay for it because let's be honest, we use Amazon Prime in December and maybe every once in a while throughout the rest of the year.
Well, not at the Noble household.
Oh, well, I do.
Those
I
packages
use
show
I
I am
use
on
it
a
for
first name
Christmas and that's
basis with
about
the
it.
Prime drivers down here. So that is not the case here.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think the Cardinals will ever be on Amazon Prime because I think the way I've heard Bill DeWitt the third speak about it, and they just hired another guy from the Blue Jays to be in their business operations. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm be honest, I don't really care about the Cardinals' business operations. They're billionaires. They make a lot of money. I don't care if they make more money. That's my thing. But um, he seems pretty excited about the idea of being able to go to direct to consumer with whatever they're doing, and they're doing it by themselves. And I think a lot of that's because then you can punch above your market weight really heavily by not relying on people to evaluate your market and pay you accordingly, but being able to just whoever having Cardinal fans in Atlanta be able to pay you instead of being blacked out from your games. Like things like that, I think they're excited about. And there's another thing they were interested in going in with the Blues. No offense to the Blues, I'm a Blues fan and I will watch them wherever they are. That makes no sense for the Cardinals to do that.
Well, that's how it used to be. I mean, with
It's going to be more
KTLR,
expensive. But
yeah.
it's going to be more expensive to do that because you have two teams now. And how many people that live outside of St. Louis would be more willing to pay for just the Cardinals than paying $30 extra a month because the Blues are on it when they're never going to watch the Blues? It makes sense
Yeah.
for the Blues. It doesn't make sense for the Cardinals, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I'm just really intrigued by the business side of this because I don't understand. I'm not gonna lie, I don't
I don't
understand it.
understand it either.
I just am intrigued to see like if baseball just says like every year the NFL rights come up or every 3 years, whatever it is, and
Mhm.
that's how you see the switch from CBS and NBC to Fox and CBS and
Yeah,
all of that. Now you have NBC one night a week and you have NFL
ESPN.
TV one night a week and ESPN on Monday nights and all of that. I'm just intrigued by that. Like Major League Baseball could legitimately say like we're putting all of our rights, like we're selling all of our rights. You know how much money they would make?
There's a problem with what you just said. That the problem is Major League
Nesson,
Baseball
the
doesn't
Yes
no.
Network,
Well, yeah, Major League Baseball doesn't
right?
control each. Every team has their own rights. They have their own rights. Well, Valley
Which
Sports has some of them, but once they get kicked back to them, which they will once Valley Sports officially goes under here, probably in 2020 in September, I think is what people are expecting when they're just going to stop paying everybody and showing games. Then it's going to kick back to teams, and then they can kind of make their own decision. And for me, I want the Cardinals not to feel pressured into going to Amazon unless it's the best situation for them where they're giving them an ungodly amount of money. Because if you're Amazon, who's the most attractive team you can actually get on your platform? It's the Cardinals. So they might pay them a lot of
or the
money.
Cubs, because the WGN no
Cubs
longer with
have their
WGN.
own,
Not
their own.
what? No, they
They're
what
on
is it?
Marquee Sports Network.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah, they have their own.
When
That's
I grew up,
why.
WGN, right?
Yeah.
That's right. You're right.
So the
That's a
Cardinals are like
valid point.
the best team. Atlanta as well, the Braves. I don't
Atlanta,
know what their
yeah, yeah,
deal
yeah,
is,
yeah.
but those are the two teams that
Houston,
if you're Amazon, right? If you're Amazon, those are the teams you want to get,
yeah.
especially the Cardinals because they have a massive fan base that will watch the games. So I would imagine they'll give them a lucrative offer, and we'll see where that goes. But I'd like to see
I
them
think
try and maximize on the amount of money they can make. That way, we can sign bigger free agents.
again, you're in the sports journalism world, not the sports business world. But in my this big old brain, which really not that big, but in my mind, you'd make way more money giving the control to an Amazon, an Apple TV, or a Netflix, who, by the way, just paid what $4 billion or $2 billion for WWE. Like that, I mean,
That's a whole league.
I
Yeah,
understand. I'm just saying, like to me, you'd make more money and not have to worry about the streaming and hiring and
I don't
getting that
agree.
out. You
Here's
think you
why.
in the
Because
long run, maybe?
If
Yeah,
you're Amazon, what are you paying the Cardinals for? You're paying the Cardinals for a percentage of what you expect to make off of them,
correct.
right? If you're the Cardinals and you're doing it by yourself, you're making all of that. You're not making a percentage of it, you're making all of it. And the Cardinal, and yeah, they're going to be spending more money on the tech people, making sure their app runs well, doing all that stuff, which I'm assuming they already have at least a little bit of an infrastructure in place because they're preparing for it and they've been doing that for a few years. But I think you can just direct to consumer allows you, and hopefully no blackouts, right? It allows you to
That's the
get Cardinal
key.
fans literally everywhere. You can get
Yeah.
them in the UK, right? There are Cardinal fans in the UK on Twitter. You can get them everywhere, and
Well,
they can
hold
buy your app, and then they can watch you every single game.
as we're talking right now. Hopefully they've stayed with us. Thank you, by the way. If you have, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. We appreciate that. But as we're talking right now, I look at our stats every week. 97% of our listeners are in the US. I'm not great at math, but that means 3% are not. So we're getting Cardinal fans from Japan, from the
Those are
UK, from Scotland, from
All our
Ireland.
Yamamoto
No,
videos.
it's almost every episode, which thank you guys, by the way. That's freaking awesome. I think that's like the coolest thing of all time. But the Cardinals are I mean,
They're
there are a
global.
handful of Major League Baseball teams that are global, and
Mhm.
that's one of them.
You
I
know
just
what
think
brings
the
up
reach of Amazon. That's what I'm saying versus the
yeah.
reach. And I also just wonder if teams are now skittish because of what happened with Bally Sports when they became left Fox. Like, I'm
Well,
just worried if
that was getting into business with a scumbag organization like Diamond
agreed,
Sports Group.
but I don't know that a lot of organizations should trust their front offices to make the decision to go to do their own thing either. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the Cardinals, but I think the Cardinals are well positioned because I think they're very good at things like this. They're very calculated. Other than when they decided to, own a share in freaking
Yeah,
Diamond Sports Group. How stupid was that? God, that was stupid.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
But I do think they're in a good place more than any other team because they're just a brand. This brings up an interesting conversation we would have to get too much into. But also, if you're the Cardinals and you might have to go direct to consumer, and now you're selling yourself more than you ever have, right? You haven't had to sell yourself. You're on cable. You're getting money from people who don't even watch you, right? Because if you're paying for direct TV and they have Bally Sports, you're getting money from that person that might not even watch Cardinal games. Um, they need to put a good product on the field. That's why this year is so important.
Yeah, good
Because if
point.
you're bad this year and you lose 90 games again, how many Cardinal fans are going to say, I'm not paying $30 a month to watch the Cardinals next year?
Right.
They lost 90 games 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that. They're not trying, not spending money. So if you're the Cardinals, you have to win one for the implications on Mozeliak and Ollie and Arenado and Goldie and all of that stuff. But also because you need people to come in the gates because your revenue for streaming, which is a large chunk of your revenue, is very what's the word? Uncertain. That's the word. It's very uncertain. You have no idea where it's going to go this year or next year. And you know that when you have to eventually go to your own streaming service, you need people to be interested in your product. And if they're not paying for it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. But the question I wanted to ask you now,
Oh, we got
it
it.
popped back into my head. Yes.
All right.
Do the Cardinals need to trade Alec Burleson and get a backup shortstop to take that spot instead?
Yes. Yes.
I think so too. I think so too.
But here's the question. Like, and again, I'm going to claim ignorance here because I haven't looked. I don't know what does that backup shortstop look like?
Preferably
Like,
for me, I'd want a left-handed shortstop. I know who's perfect, Nicky Lopez.
yeah,
I would trade for Nicky Lopez, not Burleson for Nicky Lopez. But I go to the White Sox and say, "You guys suck. How about you give
it's a good
me
way to start a
this
negotiation
gold?
right there.
How about you? They know he said it himself. He doesn't like his team. How about you give me your Gold Glove shortstop that that was just on the Braves? He's a Gold Glove shortstop. He's one of the best shortstops in baseball. That hits left-handed. It can be behind Mason Wynn and play 40 to 50 games. And can play all over the place and give me left-handed bats off the bench. Look, what do you have to trade for that? Probably not a ton.
Yeah, that's a really good
Prospect.
option. I think that they're going to be happy with Tommy though, like in putting DC in center field. I think
But you know
that's
what?
the
I don't think they
plan.
are. I don't think that's right. I think they want Tommy to be their center fielder. And I don't think it's smart. Tommy's plays a lot of really demanding positions. Shortstop and center fielder
Yes.
demanding positions on your body. So
Next to
being in
catcher,
center
they're the two
field,
hardest.
yeah, being in the field and flying around like he does, like he knows one way, and that's to play all out. Right. The dude dives at anything he thinks he can catch. He's going to be banging up his body anyway. I don't want that guy coming in the eighth inning on some days to play shortstop after playing center field for 2 weeks in a row or
By the
whatever
way, agreed.
because Mason Wynn needed to be pinch hit for by
Yeah,
Matt Carpenter or whatever it's going to be. So I don't want that. And the trade Burleson part to me is more about I don't want to send him to AAA. Like I don't
yeah,
want to do that to him. So I think he needs to be a Cardinal. I think he should be the first bench bat, lefty bench bat. But if Matt Carpenter is going to be here, which he will be here, um, I don't think it makes sense to carry two left-handed bats. The more I thought about it, over a guy that can play shortstop off your bench.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a very logical way. You should have really had that one earlier in the podcast. That would have been a
I
much better
did,
time
but
to
I
talk
lost
about
it.
it.
I
But
did, but I completely lost it.
I think it's a really good thought because otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to bring up like let's say knock on wood, there is an injury to Tommy or Mason, or you bring up Thomas Jace or Thomas JC to sit on the
Or you're bringing
bench
up Victor
or
Scott and you're
or create
putting
right. Like either way, no, I
yeah,
mean,
right.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to that. Those two might be ready. I'm also saying I don't know.
A lot of
I
this
don't
also
think it's a
depends on
terrible idea.
if you believe Thomas JC can play shortstop at the big league level, which I have seen nothing to suggest that he can. Like, let's be honest, I haven't. I think he might be able to, but we've got to see that develop and see what happens this year. If you think he can, then maybe you'll be okay with saying, well, if there was an injury, knock on wood, to Mason or someone, that you can have Tommy play the rest of that game out and call up to Jason. He can play shortstop for a few games. And I know a lot of people bring up Brendan Donovan as an option there, and I get it because he's done it before and been fine. but he's not very good there. He's limited range wise. And honestly, I don't want to put shortstop throws on his arm that's recovering because it's not a throw he's used to making. It's also the longest throw you can make on the infield.
Yep.
I don't want him playing one inning at shortstop unless you absolutely have, two injuries in the same game that forces that to happen. I don't want that happening.
Your theory sets up perfectly for my Pete Cosma reunion tour.
Did you know? Okay, I saw this the other day. 2022, well, no, 2021, Pete Cosma got a hit off of Shohei Ohtani.
Like, shout out Pete.
He had one at bat for the Oakland Athletics and got a hit off Shohei Ohtani.
Shout out. Oh, but we need to talk about this later. I really want to talk about the Oakland Athletics. What does their I want you to make a prediction on what their attendance is going to be this year.
You want to know?
50.
Did you see they have people, rich ass people in Oakland that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy out the stadium so no one shows up.
Correct.
That's amazing. They're like, I don't need this money. I'll give it to John Fisher. I don't care. But he's not getting any tickets. He's not getting concessions. That's so funny to me.
I love it.
The Oakland A's, by the way.
I hate it. First of all, let me say I hate it. I don't love it.
I absolutely hate it. Oakland is one of the best fan bases in baseball.
Needs to be a major league team there. And I hate what they did there. I hate what Major League Baseball allowed them to do. I hate what the owner did. At some point, old Robbie is going to have to get some bigger balls to force some of these owners either out of the game. Dad. I understand that. That's the problem.
The rest of the owners have to do that. That's not on him.
Goodell. Well, then you have to start getting a salary.
Goodell's different. Goodell's Darth Vader.
But
Rob Manfred's not. He's like the admiral that gets choked out by Darth Vader.
Goodell might be the emperor.
That actually, yes, that's more accurate.
Yeah,
he definitely is.
Yeah. If we're going Star Wars,
was the emperor, but all
right. I got three. I'm going to go.
Before we go, I had one more thing on the athletics.
3 parades.
Before you move on, okay, we'll get there in a second. Before you move on, I wanted to get to the athletics even more. I don't think I make my bold prediction. I don't think they end up in Las Vegas. I think they're going to end up being in Sacramento or something. Because here's the thing: Salt Lake City is really pushing for them to come there because they're like, we don't want to be in Oakland anymore. No one's showing up. We might play in a minor league stadium for a year or two. They haven't broken ground at all trying to build that stadium yet. They haven't gotten official confirmation that they're going to get all the money they need to build it. They're trying to build it on 9 acres of land, which is ridiculously
35,000 seats.
Lower than the Brewers, who had the lowest in baseball in terms of seats. And John Fisher was in Las Vegas. God, I hate him. He was in Las Vegas. And they asked, it was like one of those press things where they're trying to get people excited. And there was like 20,000 people there. And the PA girl, I feel bad for her. It was very awkward. She said, "Who's excited for the Las Vegas Athletics? Make some noise." Not one cheer from anyone in Las Vegas. And she's like, "Come on, guys. Can you hear me back there?" It was very awkward. I just get a vibe. And Ken Rosenthal's been on this for a few months that they're going to end up having to go somewhere else because I don't think anything that they're doing in Las Vegas makes any sense.
Yeah, it's a wild situation and one I think we definitely need to keep an eye on. It's so sad.
Yeah. People forget the Oakland Athletics are like the third, fourth most historic team in Major League Baseball. Top 5 for sure. Like they were in the 90s and in the 80s and 70s. They were like one of the premier organizations in baseball. It's very sad what they've done there.
Okay, before we get out of here, trivia question for you. Which 2 teams have met the most in the World Series?
Ooh, I'm going to go Yankees in there just because that makes the most sense. No, maybe not.
It's 11, by the way.
11 times?
Yeah.
Has it had Red Sox and Dodgers?
Yankees, Dodgers. Should have stuck with what you meant there. Damn. Last time it happened was 1981. Nailed it, by the way. Nailed it.
Kirk Gibson? Was that the Kirk Gibson year?
I think the Yankees are 8-3 in that matchup.
Was 81 the Kirk Gibson year? Or is that right?
No. That was Dodgers A's. That was 88.
Was the last time they won the World Series? It was a real World Series, at least.
Yeah, 88. Yeah, 88. Yep, 88. Because 89 was the A's. That was the earthquake year. And then 90 was the Reds. Eric Davis beating the A's. Yeah. Yep. So, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, good. That was a good episode, I think. We didn't.
I'm not going to get a text that says I think we were too negative.
We actually weren't today.
Okay.
I didn't have to talk about what I expect from our 85-year-old pitchers today. So.
All right, y'all. Have a fantastic weekend. We will be back next week, back with our player profiles. We've got Goldie and we've got Donovan next week.
Or Gorman, either one.
Yeah, either way. One of the two. We'll figure that out the day of show. probably 5 minutes before we go live. So there we go. That's what we'll have. You guys are welcome. Thank you all. Have an amazing weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Cardinals, Kenyan Middleton. Let's go Cards.